Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Farm and Woodshed Report. I'm your host, Robin Carpenter, and as I mentioned earlier, our guest today is Leslie Goldman. And Leslie Goldman is our enchanted gardener, a planter of seeds of success and dreams, and just an amazing inspiration for all of us. Welcome, Leslie.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, there we go. We're all set here. We got some new equipment in the studio, and a few things got a little confused here for me. Okay, so Leslie, the last time we talked, it was around the time of the Heirloom Expo in Santa Rosa, and you've been having a lot of adventures since then. And one of the things you were talking about then was, you know, ending the drought in your own life, and so many synchronistic things have happened around you working around that issue. But now we're suffering or we're delighting in an abundance of water.
Yes. Well,
so you did a good job, Leslie, calling in the rain for all of us.
Yeah, well, just to catch up, let's start with that theme of ending the drought in our lives. And first of all, I want to point out the whole purpose of the rain is, from my perspective, is to help us enter the world where we become one with nature. And so in this show, I would really like to plant some dreams, literally, with one of my favorite teachers, which is an ancient kernel of wheat. And my friends at Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company, they created a little seed packet called the Plant Your Dream Seeds. And so whenever I travel, I give those seeds away, and I've spent some considerable time writing an extensive article on one of my blogs, on the Plant Your Dream blog, called How to Plant Your Dream. So people can look that up on How to Plant Your Dream, but I think we could actually do some of that on air. But Robin, let's start with this idea of the drought. So last time we talked, I just finished with the National Heirloom Expo. This year, the dates are September 5 through 7, 2017 at the Sonoma Fairgrounds. That's where I saw you last, and that was certainly a joy, Robin.
It was a wonderful afternoon, and it was so great to finally meet you in person.
Yeah, and so this whole theme about entering the drought. When I use the word drought, I'm thinking both literally as well as metaphorically. And it is, so just about when I saw you, I went to this North American permaculture convergence in Hopland, and I worked with the ceremonialist named Starhawk. And in the closing ceremony, the temperature was about 90 degrees, and I had been planting these dreams. I literally used ancient Kamut brand wheat, which is a very high-quality, non-GMO organic wheat, and I asked people to read what I call the Sacred Seed Prayer and get in touch with their own relationship with the seed, and then we plant it in a pot. And the metaphor is, how fast can a dream grow? Well, the seeds of Kamut will grow into grass within about a week. So here we were in the closing ceremony, and I asked the little child to water the seeds as we were in a ceremony with a couple hundred people or more. And the child used sandy rain that I had carried with me in a container to water the dreams. And then the dreams were watered and 90-degree temperature, and the next
Leslie, I just want to let you know you're kind of cutting out. I don't know if you're on speaker. Maybe that would help.
Someone was trying to call in.
Oh, that's it. Okay, great. Well, that'll be done. Okay.
So as I was saying, it was 90 degrees temperature, and I had a child water the dreams that were in a pot, the grass that had been growing.
The kamut seed.
Yeah, the kamut seed. And then the next 2 days there was a thunderstorm in San Diego. I was watering the seeds with San Diego rainwater.
And it's amazing, Leslie, you have these wonderful stories of synchronicity like that around the water that, it's so inspiring, and especially for anyone who's studied shamanism and knows about how our intentionality and our connection to can have an impact.
It's so true, and we do our intentionality, and my work's called Plant Your Dream, and that's a way to focus our intentions with nature by actually literally planting seeds and creating intention for the dreams we want to plant with the seeds. And then as the seeds grow, the dream grows. Does that make sense, Robin?
It does, and I did that with you when I saw you this past fall, and it was very powerful for me to plant my dream with you, and I'm still working on that dream, but it was a very great sort of it was a way of saying I've now begun. I've really it was a way where I felt like truly committed at a very deep nature way, that I don't know, it was really like that's the point at which I felt like I began this project I'm on that right now.
Right. That's fantastic. So in the story that I wrote online, How to Plant Your Dream, people could read all the steps, because I've given away about 4,000 of these seed packets that Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company and Kamut International helped me produce this Plant Your Dream Seed Kit to win back our sacred seeds. And I give them away at the Heirloom Expo and other places where I go. And but this whole theme about ending the drought, a lot of us were paying attention to what was happening with the pipeline in North Dakota. And for me, I was doing some ritual work around that. And for me, the victory of Standing Rock was that 300 tribes of indigenous tribes that have never talked or really befriended one another were now in a village. And the power of that in itself is what I call the victory of Standing Rock, that all these people came together. And so what I'm presenting here now is each of the heirloom seeds, which we celebrate at the National Heirloom Expo, carry stories. And I know you've been there. I tell a little bit about the squash tower and that big pyramid that we create there at the Heirloom Expo. What was your experience of that, Robin?
Well, I remember the first time I saw it and just getting goosebumps. I think this was the 5th or 6th year, this past year. And, and seeing it again and over the 5-year period, having learned more and more and actually written about seed saving and about how each seed holds a story and holds the souls and the messages of all the people whose hands it passed through for that particular beautiful expression of nature to be there. And there must have been 50, 60 at least varieties of squash, all with these beautiful colors and shapes and things that are sort of unimaginable except by Mother Nature. And it's just... what's really I love about it, having seen it now for several years, how excited, especially children, are to see it. And you see so many parents with children standing in front of it, and the children just looking at it in awe. And I just think it's such a beautiful testament to the bounty and the resilience, and that Mother Nature and the seeds that we've been gifted by the earth are there for us and have been for thousands of years or longer. And that expression of it and honoring of it, it's a very, I think it's the one thing that people I have sent or said, please go, comment on the most.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's pretty exciting. It reminds me of the United Nations squashes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Like, it was like the first time I saw it, it's the equivalent of all these 300 tribes of Native Americans, each representing the original people of the earth, deciding to come and create peace.
And I love, too, that you had your pet squash there as well.
Yeah, I'll get to the pet squash. So what happened, the first time I saw it and spent some time in the room where Jared Gettle and the family from Baker Creek, Missouri, they come out to the western headquarters, the Petaluma Seed Bank, which I really hope everyone will go visit in Petaluma. So the first time I saw the squashes, it just seemed like they were talking. It seemed, one says, "What's new? What's new?" It was like there was squash there from all around the world that had been locally grown out up near Sacramento by some of our growers. But it's like they were all talking, and it was like they had never seen one another before, and now they had a chance to all be honored in such a sacred way. And I just think that they were so happy to be associating. And so this whole theme of diversity, it's like right now one of the themes that the country is working with. There's so many of us that recognize that there's great power in our differences. And rather than imagining one size fits all, or there's one kind of breed of person that's more better or whatever, this whole idea of the coexistence of all the religions and all the diversities of people, that's one more step that ends the drought in our life. Just the fact that we are so different, and the whole essence of America and what we stand for is a home for all kinds of diverse people who don't speak the same language, figuring out how to get along. That's one more key to ending the drought. And let me stop there. What do you think of that idea about the richness and the economic, so to speak, richness of all this diversity of different kinds of people that have never really lived together, learning to live together, and both the challenge and the opportunity there? Can you see what I'm saying about
exactly?
More?
And it's
something about that.
I think, to me, it is very symbolic of what we need to own and recognize and really embrace, which is, with diversity, you bring resilience and health and the ability to thrive, and that you need this diversity. Mother Nature has diversity because diversity is what brings about the ability to thrive and to be as rich and healthy and abundant as possible. And I think that that's something that we have lately had sort of under attack in a lot of different ways about the diversity of humankind, different cultures, different colors of skin. And as well, from Giant Agribusiness, maintaining the diversity of our foods and our seeds and our crops and each other. That they talk about biomimicry. As humans, we want to show that kind of diversity and honor it and find that it's essential and powerful and good.
Yeah. So on this theme of ending the drought, I really think, as I was saying, it was the coming together of all those Native Americans, and that was like the victory to me of what we call the Standing Rock. And with the Heirloom Expo, it's the coming together of all these different farmers, from all over, each showing their favorite heirlooms. Like heirlooms basically are the original seeds grown out that start to accumulate what I would call love affairs between human beings and certain seeds and certain stories. And when you grow the seed out as an act of culture, as my friend Paul Wallace says, he was the director of the Heirloom Expo for numbers of years, and now he's invested in creating pure cotton shirts. It's like keeping the culture in agriculture. It's like when you grow these different varieties, you're keeping alive the stories and the love affairs between indigenous people and their culture. I was trained in the healing arts by an elder whose name was Dr. Bernard Jensen, and right out of college, I lived with him on his health ranch that was called the Hidden Valley Health Ranch in Escondido, and people would come from all over the country to learn what he had to say, and he would point out that the difference between a Chinese person and a European person had to do with the unique biochemistry that was in their food, and these produced different personality characteristics of the way the personalities would lean. And so the food of a culture and its story and the way a certain race develops has to do, and it's totally tied in with the seeds, that are unique to that culture.
That's fascinating that they've co-evolved, those humans and their seeds, that they're working together in the way that they become what they are culturally.
Yeah, and exactly. And when you talk about good health, you're really talking about getting a vibrant assortment of trace minerals, like even as more and more people, like, for instance, at the Soil and Oil Conference that they have up in your neck of the woods every year now, everybody's understanding more and more that health begins with the soil. And that was one of the principles I learned from Dr. Bernard Jensen, who traveled around the world. But, when you start wanting to get into food as medicine, then you get into the fact that different foods, like even a carrot grown in Utah versus a carrot grown in another part of the country has different biochemical balance. And we're just scratching the surface as we get back to food and food as medicine to understand that nature has got this whole technology all worked out. I call it nature's original technology. And sometimes I feel like nature's original technology uses the things like rain, like, for instance, right now in Marin, the question is no longer in the moment drought, but too much water. Well, I'll tell you a story about that. I enjoyed going to the Women's March on Saturday. And in San Diego, there was about 30,000 to 40,000 men, women, children, families, and they even included a few little dogs. But we, as we were waiting to start the march, we're in the middle of 3 rainstorms. So the second rainstorm stopped on Saturday morning to allow for the Women's March. And so I went down there. It was not raining. Then all of a sudden, as we were waiting for the march, there was a tremendous outpouring of rain. So I didn't have my umbrella, and there was a beautiful woman next to me. I'm talking in and out. And so I said, may I stand here with you? So I went under the umbrella with this woman, and we had a wonderful conversation for about 15 minutes, and I was looking at the Baker Creek catalog with all the diversity of the foods in there, and we got to know one another, and she wanted to have a job for the USDA and work for government, and I told her, oh, well, I had spoken to the USDA when I was in Washington. And so we had this delightful little conversation, and then the march started. I ran after her and gave her one of my seed packets because I was hoping she would friend me on Facebook. I wanted to stay in touch with her, and she actually did. But that whole metaphor, because it rained, therefore we cooperated, the two of us, and we shared the umbrella. So if there's too much of something, there's an opportunity for people to cooperate.
And to share.
To share. And if there's too little of something, there's an opportunity for people to share. Same thing. So, in other words, nature is using these props to get people to do what they're supposed to do. And I'm saying it's an inherent law of nature that people are intended to get along. I mean,
because nature is, a friend of mine says, nature is fiercely, ferociously cooperative. You know, that nature wants us to collaborate and cooperate, and that's how nature works. It's not survival of the fittest. It's survival of the most cooperative.
Exactly, and that's part of the technology. And when you get and start practicing, as I was listening to one of my friends this morning on the radio, Romella, who I see, I'm probably going to see in a couple weeks at the Scripps Natural Supplement Conference here in San Diego. There's about 600 MDs who come together, and for these beautiful conferences that I go to a couple times a year where I get to see the faces of the new medicine. And she was talking about getting stranded on the road and how someone had stopped finally to help her. And she was talking about the power of, commit random kindness and senseless acts of beauty. I really do think we're meant to help one another. And many times we have catastrophes because, so to speak, we're living as an earthquake waiting to happen.
You know, it's interesting on NPR last week, I cannot remember who was talking about this, but basically the deep connecting and value of catastrophes and how that it shatters away all of the fluff and all of the things that are non-essential and creates this space in which we are our most raw, unprotected, open-hearted selves, and that there's so much redemption in catastrophe.
Yeah, and so what I would recommend to anyone who's concerned, like we're getting so much rain now, and we're in our third. We are in our third storm now of 3. It stopped for the Women's March. By the end of the Women's March, you would not even have known that there had been some rain at the start of the march. And, you know, when I think of how uncomfortable we all would have been if nature was not a friend of woman.
Yeah.
In other words, that march would have been very uncomfortable if it had stormed through the whole Women's March. Now, of course, Women's March, you know, what does that represent? It's just like the election. You can read into it anything you'd like from whatever your perspective is of why were they marching, what did it mean. But for me, I am so, I don't know, I have such a big heart for the creation of woman. I mean, you know, because I'm so close to seeds and the romance of seeds that I'm going on numbers of decades of being alive. I mean, I'm going on I'm 69 now, but I'm as fascinated and more fascinated by the whole creation. It's just absolutely incredible what nature had in mind, or God, however you want to say it, when they created woman, and man, to go along. And it's just the most fascinating thing. And that's another of the keys to ending the drought in our life, Robin. The more men and women practice getting along with one another, the more we are creating the opportunity for the magic of nature to work in our lives. Give me a comment on that, would you please?
I think it's so powerful. I know we had a couple here who for many years worked on the power and the necessity for partnership between the masculine and the feminine, and that when that comes together, what that puts forth is so powerful and transformative, and that it's really kind of the next step in our evolution of kind of returning to a healthier place, is really highlighting the partnership, that we have to have that partnership of masculine and feminine working together.
Yeah, and once again, it's not like it's intended to be simple. It's intended to be thought-provoking and soul-growing and get us figuring out, because we are diverse, there's something absolutely incredible about the way the natural family is intended to work, and the way we reproduce as a species, just like in so many ways like the seeds reproduce. But it's not like we're men and women are exactly the same. It's like we're profoundly different, giving men and women the opportunity to learn to get along.
And to respect the difference is not, you can't, I mean, I know it's a point of conflict often between myself and my husband is, I can't expect him to be like one of my girlfriends. He brings, and in times of crisis or times of need, I need that masculine energy. So if he had turned into one of my girlfriends, I wouldn't have access to the that we have to also honor the differences and not be judgmental and not ask for something that's appropriately found somewhere else, and honor what's there that is meant to be to make everything balance and come together correctly.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
Well, Leslie, I just need to take a quick little break and remind people, first of all, you're on KWMR, 90.5 Point Radio Station, 89.9 Bolinas, 92.3 San Geronimo Valley, or streaming online at kwmr.org. This is the Farm and Woodshed Report. I'm your host, Robin Carpenter. My guest is Leslie Goldman, who is a food activist and Mother Nature ceremonialist and your enchanted gardener in conversation. And we also want to thank some of our sponsors and remind people that Sweethearts of the Radio is coming up on Saturday, February 11th at the Dance Palace in Point Reyes Station. A big thanks to our event sponsors, Hydron Meadery, Hog Island Oyster Company, Ken and Sam Levin, Window Cleaning, and Point Reyes Vacation Rentals. Thanks also to our media partners, Pacific Sun and the Point Reyes Light. Tickets to the show are available online at kwmr.org or at the KWMR offices during business hours. Hope to see you at the Sweethearts. And we'd also like to say that we are supported by the Bay Area Air District, reminding listeners that breathing wood smoke is unhealthy and that it's important to protect the air inside and outside homes by rethinking wood fires this winter. More information can be found at sparetheair.org. We also want to remind listeners, speaking of water, there is a flash flood watch today, and it remains in effect throughout the entire San Francisco Bay Area and Central Coast through this evening, through Monday evening, and there's also a high surf advisory that remains in effect until 3 a.m. Tuesday morning. Large and dangerous swells continue along the coast, swells still in the 14 to 16 foot range, so please be careful if you are out there. And Leslie, so we were just talking about how we as humans need to follow the lead of Mother Nature, and how we are meant to come together and celebrate not only the diversity of all different types of humans, but the diversity between male and female and those energies.
Yeah, and we did also mention that theme of living our lives as an earthquake waiting to happen, which is something that happens when we attempt to superimpose a technology on the earth that isn't really in our best interest. It's like we can imagine we can do whatever we want, whether it's farming or growing food or the kinds of technologies that seem to be, some people would like to press them to the limit and get what we can out of there, but we have so much more to gain by learning to find what's nature's original technology. And part of this theme of ending the drought has to do with allowing nature to work on our behalf, acknowledging that we are part of the romance of seeds and that we can enter this world where we become one with our nature through learning the things that happens from friends and when women and men get together. So I wanted to read one of my catch-ups for the year. I'm bringing out what I call the 7 love cures. These are a series of poems that I wrote in the 90s, but I'm finding that I'm bringing them out again, and they're like words that men need to know and women want to hear. And they're already an e-book on Apple. It's called, you just look up words men need to know and women want to hear, the 7 love cures. But I'd like to read this since it's such a cold weather day, and this is one of the poems called Love Her Always. Okay. This is one of the 7 love cures. Okay, it goes, a woman is in your life to do nothing. She's in your life to be. She's in your life, but her life is her own. Give her room to grow, room to imagine the world as originally intended. Be kind to her. Evolution is intended to grow in her belly. As a maiden, she will charm you. She's intended to seduce you into being the best possible you. She has what it takes. Love her no matter what, and you will be pregnant with unending newness. Woman is forever fertile. When her body is no longer a seedbed, her soul is even more a seedbed. She is a precious evergreen tree, always fruit-bearing. Woman is a keeper from beginning to end. Love her always. Because you know this, under burning sun you shall have shade. During rain, comfort.
Oh, that's beautiful, Leslie. You know, it's very interesting because you talk about how she will seduce you into becoming your best. The couple that had worked so much on the partnership, Donna and Paul, one of their books was called, I believe it's called Redefining Seduction, and talking about that it's a woman's calling to seduce men through love and the feminine energy into becoming a mindful male and to becoming the best male that they can be. That's part of the work of women. So that's so beautiful that you talked about that.
Yeah, and it's pretty fascinating, the whole experience of what the opportunity is, to learn. And then, So
it's interesting because people may be tuning in and going, why is Robin on the Farm and Woodshed Report talking about the seduction and the power of women? Because what you do so beautifully, Leslie, is as a food activist and a ceremonialist, you are reconnecting us to the deeper power underneath of the seed, of the soil, of the interconnections, of the diversity, and how that not only feeds us appropriately, but it feeds our souls, it informs and feeds our cultures and how we treat each other.
Yeah, and I was talking about keys in part to entering the world where we become one with nature, as well as ending the drought or having some sense of managing either too much water or too little water, which are crucial issues. And then, of course, in the ancient times, as we get back to the essence, many times it was the women who literally planted the seeds, in the ground. Many times it's like there's a ceremonial function that I believe women are in process of remembering that will help us live on a peaceful planet. I think we put too many demands on both men and women to fit into a box that really isn't us, or a package that's not really who we are, where to have this authentic relationship with nature, that's what allows us to live in harmony with the food shed and in harmony with the abundance and in harmony with the diversity. Like, for instance, that a lot of the contaminations or the the abundance of bug life that we get in the crops is because we're attempting to live by some other kind of technology that is not really appropriate to the earth. We've talked about that before, like the GMOs or oil being on its last leg. And, when we know if we build up the fertility of the soil and we're focused on our own fertility and health through what we eat and opening up the pure food revolution, we can see that all these things are important. For a woman to honor herself, to honor her cycles, to honor where she is. Does she need time alone? Does she, is she taking care of the family? Who's doing all these things that many times we're so pressured, today. But there's something so deep in a woman really honoring who she is. And that always brings up the issue of taking space or taking enough time to cultivate who she is as a woman and have time with as you said, with the sisterhood. And this is all tied in. This is all tied into our nature and living in harmony with the seasons, as Elson Haas says, and some of the other people. Do you know what I'm talking about? Does this make sense?
Yes, and it's something that's always been, I know from having spent many years as a single mom in a high-pressure job, and people say, be sure to take time for yourself and care, and you're thinking, that's my lowest priority because, I'm having to survive and to take care of this child. Mm-hmm. But it is true, and you do have to fight for those times and those moments and find the quiet places where you can just sort of reconnect. One of the things for me that was very powerful that my grandmother taught me as a small child, she used to make us lie down on the ground with our arms, stomach down, arms and legs spread out, and close our eyes and pretend and imagine the earth, this big ball kind of hurling through space, and that we were holding on as it was spinning, and to feel like the earth was holding us back. And that was such a powerful thing as a child. I remember almost my cousins and I feeling dizzy when we did that. And so that was one of the things that I used to practice. There was a nice grassy area in my yard, and after I would put Louise to bed some nights, I would just go outside and I would put down a towel and just lie with my body, stomach down, just against the earth. And just, I think for me, and I'm sure it probably does, it just sort of kind of like all of the negative, jangly energy would just sort of flood out of me. And it would really help me just take a deep breath and have a good night's sleep. And I think you could do it for 10 minutes. So finding those places, because there's so much power in the feminine, in that power to connect and to nurture. And that's, part of why we're here. And it's interesting and disturbing that so much of what's happened with the GMO movement and the enormous increase in the use of pesticides and herbicides because of it, that we have so much endocrine disruption, which is disrupting the, young boys growing breast, or women, higher rates of infertility, that and the actions that we take that are very disruptive and not working with Mother Nature, the backlash against that has actually been a backlash against our own ability to be fertile, to reproduce, and to be,
right.
So I find that that's more than ironic. It's symbolic of what happens when we step away from the importance of that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I really feel that the Enchanted Garden era that we're moving towards will be people growing some of their own food, and as well as having a very close connection with the people that we can trust who are growing the rest of our food. And that's why the area you live is so exciting, because there are so many people who attend the National Heirloom Expo and are getting wind of this idea that we almost have a responsibility to grow a little of our food, even if it's just like some wheat seeds in a container, a can or something with some biodynamic compost or some potting soil or something like that. And just the idea of seeing things grow is so exciting, and brings us so back to this whole theme of entering the world where we become one with nature. If you just grow one seed, or like a grass seed that I'm suggesting when I see you, I've been handing these seed packets back. But the point is, we're all sacred seeds, and if we grow a little bit of our own food, we can start rekindling this relationship where you develop this capacity that you speak your word and at certain times, and you get a shift in the weather. And you can, it's starting to rain right now. It wasn't raining, and now lots of times nature's just listening to us and what we're saying, and as we cultivate that capacity. So I have a question for you, Robin.
Yes.
How many Enchanted Garden Club members do you think it would take to grow 1,000 years apiece?
Oh, wow. I would say, gosh, a few million perhaps. Actually more than that if we can spread it and scatter it around the globe.
Yeah. Well, what I mean by that is the Enchanted Garden to me is the name for the new earth. And the point is, if there's enough people living their dreams, for instance, in this time, because of the political climate, a lot of us are caught up in our divisiveness, or how we imagine we're different than somebody, or we have different goals, or the world's not working, so therefore this political or that political onward movement can shift that for us. But I'm saying that if there's enough people marching in the direction of their dreams, it does not matter, so to speak. Of course, we have to pay attention, but then I'm more interested in you, Robin, as the news than I am about reading what somebody else says is the news. I'd rather hear, how's Robin's dream growing, the one that we planted. And if enough people are in the club, in the Enchanted Garden Club, if enough people are actually living their dream, planting it, learning how to end the drought, learning how to live in harmony with their soul life, the part of us that gives us some sense of faith that there's a tomorrow for us. All those things are critical to being happy and finding a way to feel some ground underneath these incredible shaking times that we're all living through. Does that make sense, Robin?
It does, and it's really interesting because I think that one of the things that's so powerful and that I've seen in the work that I did with, say, the GMO labeling movement is that this newfound resurgence, particularly in, Western civilized country, and some people might call it an obsession, but this resurgence of focus on our food supply, on cooking, on feeding, on food, on where it's from, on what's being done to it, crosses all political and religious boundaries. And that's why I think it's a very powerful, powerful thing, because there's some way in which it touches us so deeply. I saw that in the early days of the GMO labeling movement in California, when we had every single Tea Party endorsing labeling. We had the state Republican Women's Caucus endorsing it. We had liberals endorsing it. We had, and many, 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 many women. It was very much sort of a mom's movement, too. So many women moved that no matter what your political persuasion, your core maternal instincts to protect our next generation of children, whether you have children or not, is something that is not political. It's something that is so connected to Mother Earth and our hearts. So I think that it's no accident that this focus is coming up, even if it may seem shallow to say, cooking shows or whatever, but this fascination, this craving around food and eating and cooking for each other and growing and seeking out what is best or most enticing. I think that it's expressing something really deep in ourselves, and I think you're very right that it's a way in which we can re-enter nature, all of us, and even like for myself, we don't have the best place for growing food, but I grow probably 30 different herbs. I grow all of my own herbs and seasonings, which I can grow, and so I think that I think this is an entry point. This is a great way to connect and open our hearts.
And I want to make sure I want to read the Enchanted Garden Club membership now, because we're getting close to the end.
Please do. And I just want to remind the listeners, this is the Farm and Woodshed Report, and I'm Robin Carpenter, and we're in conversation with Leslie Goldman, a food activist, a ceremonialist, your enchanted gardener who is helping us plant the seeds of success for our dreams. Okay.
So I'm going to read this, and then I would like everybody to imagine they're holding a seed in hand. And I have my seed pot here, and I'm going to plant our one seed that represents the dreams of all of our listeners. Okay. Oh, patient Mother Earth, let us walk together more closely. More now I accept your fulfillment is a byproduct of my own dreams flowering. Remind me that all natural things on earth grow from seeds. Open in me the wisdom contained in a tiny seed, that I might too experience how dreams grow naturally. The enchanted garden, a name for the new earth, growing through me, starts here and now. I am a sacred seed. So, Robin, I just want you and the listeners, imagine you're holding a wheat seed in your hand, and I'm going to plant that right now for all of us. And the dream that I'm planting is for all of us to realize that we're going to make it through this time. The earth is going to continue living in a beautiful way, and we're each being invited just to be part of the beautiful dream that it is to be human, to be alive now. And the waters and the clouds will lift, and everything's going to be all right. Just plant your dream and spend some time marching in the direction of what's your deepest dream. Okay, I'm putting it in a pot right here of biodynamic potting soil for my friends at Malibu Compost. I'm planting the seed. Do you have a dream that you'd like to share with the listeners, Robin, some closing?
Well, I have a dream. My first dream was a series of books I'm working on, children's books right now. And then my second dream is a dream I have about a book about my grandmother that I hope to also be able to begin work on this year. So that would be the dream I would be dreaming today.
Okay, and I've got my hand on my pet celebrity squash. It's a squash I brought from the Heirloom Expo. It's called the Getty Okasomin. It's the one that they tell the legend that it was in an urn for 800 years, and then someone planted the seed. These seeds are available from Baker Creek. And they planted, one of the legends, they planted a seed, and the squash grew after 800 years buried in an urn. Well, what if you, Robin, what if each listener is actually the genie that's been locked in an urn for 800 years? Now you're out. You're on Earth, and you're intended to grow. So let's all get behind that and be grateful that we ended the drought. We've got some water now, and you're part of that.
And I think that, it's some of the signs that I saw people holding. One of my favorite was, you may have thought you buried us, but you didn't know we were seeds. And I thought that was such a great sign that, if you bury a seed, it will grow. So, that I thought that was such a wonderful sentiment and one of the signs that I saw.
I love it.
So, Leslie, I did a little prayer for you that I would like to say to you, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Dear Mother Earth, please bless your sacred supplicant who devotes his life force to honoring nature's call. With seeds and loving kindness, he calls on us to plant our hearts and dreams within your sacred soil. He carries your enchantment wherever he can go. Pain will not keep him from the awakening of your children. He weaves us all together in a tapestry of our dreams, flowing with his guidance into the sacred soil. His open heart and awakening rituals create for us a bastion of purity and hope. He unveils our secret strength until we are filled with belief, and now know that our dreams can be planted and our sacred seeds will prevail. So thank you, Leslie, for your beautiful work.
Oh, Robin, thank you. That was so beautiful.
Well, I mean, I just, as I said earlier, for my listeners, they're going like, how does this have to do with farming and food? Because this is at the very heart of it. And if people have done much studying of ancient cultures and agriculture and shamanism, there were so many amazing rituals around planting and harvesting and honoring of how sacred that it is and how sacred the seeds are.
And we'll see each other at the National Heirloom Expo, September 5 through 7 in Santa Rosa.
It's the gathering of the tribes, I like to call it, or of our tribes, of those of us called to protect the seeds. It's interesting, there was a poem that I had on an article I did for Edible Marin and Wine Country on seed saving, and one of the lines in it was that seeds were the original monies of the earth, that seeds were so valuable to pass on. It was like the ultimate thing of value and gifting. And it was also, I believe in that same poem, it was the first covenant between Mother Nature and humans, that she gave us her seeds. And I thought that was quite a beautiful sentiment. Well, Leslie, I have so enjoyed having you on again, and I'm sure we'll have you on before the Heirloom Festival again. Thank you so much.
Okay. Be well.
You too. You've been listening to the Farm and Woodshed Report. I'm your host, Robin Carpenter. My guest today was Leslie Goldman, food activist, ceremonialist, and your enchanted gardener. Coming up next is Post Carbon Radio, and they will be talking about after the inauguration, now what? A conversation with Norman Solomon and Dennis Cunningham coming up next.